Welcome to the People's Revolution podcast. This is a space where we share stories from activists around the world. We hope that these stories inspire you to act locally as we share globally.
I don't have a problem with you. This generation, look around, there's nothing left to do. Liberation, take one final step and then you'll see the complications. The system don't belong to you or me.
Welcome to the People's Revolution podcast. Today we have Nate Trash, but before we start, we're of course going to do a land acknowledgement. A recognition that we are on stolen land is not enough when the genocide we call history still continues today and is reinforced by the daily lives of those unaware. Residential schools only closed their last doors in 1997, but the mentality of the residential schools lives on. White people imagine living in a place that not only normalizes genocide, but actively covers it up. We don't live here because a peaceful treaty was signed. We live here because white people before us brutally pushed their way in. This includes our current government, RCMP, and church, and we need to acknowledge this and the harmful systems it brought with it before we can even attempt to create reconciliation. It is a privilege to not know that you're living in such a way that makes a genocidal reality seem like regular everyday life. I would still like to recognize that the stolen land I'm speaking from is rightfully the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nations and was forced to be the home of Treaty 7. These nations are Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani. In these spaces, the Siksikaitsitsi people lived and practiced their oral traditions as far back as existence goes. Treaty 7 was signed on September 22, 1877 in a brutally unethical way. This treaty was not upheld and includes the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and the Métis Nation of Region 3. So this space is known as Calgary is actually rightfully known as Mohkinstsis. Thank you. So again, today we have Nate fucking Trash, a Calgary staple, in my opinion. He has been part of bands such as World Class White Trash and currently Whorrify. He has projects like Trash Talk with Nate Trash, Trash on the Streets, and he also works with Karst Apparel. Hi, Nate.
Hello, Julia. How are you doing?
I am all right. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I got a little spring cold, but being a construction worker working outside, I always get a spring cold this time of year. Last year around this time, it hit me and it was COVID. So luckily, I took 2 COVID tests this morning, 1 and 2, and they both came back negative. But because I work at the university, I wasn't allowed to, like, if I get any symptoms, I got to test and I got to call, because the university, it doesn't matter what any of the normal people's restrictions are. University is a school, so they follow a lot more intelligent procedures there, which is masks and fucking, everybody's got to test if they have symptoms. You're not allowed in any sort of buildings if you have any symptoms. Like if you they're strict, and it's good. It's good. It works out because these kids need to be able to get their schooling done. So, but I got the day off today, so we were able to bang out this interview a little bit easier than it would have been had I had to rush home from work and have to do the interview like in my dirty, gross work clothes.
Which would have been great either way.
But still would have been good.
But thank you for being here with a cold and all that stuff.
Anything for you, Julia. Honestly, we've been friends for almost 10 years now. I think we've actually been friends for probably 10 years now. And I would. Anything for you. Anything you need, just ask. Just let me know.
Nate, you're embarrassing me. Just kidding. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I want to jump right into you. I want to talk about you. And why I would consider you a staple in the Calgary music scene. I have seen you everywhere for so long. I've seen you promoting shows. I've seen you interviewing people. I've seen you playing. When World Class White Trash was a thing, I was so fucking excited every single time.
Yeah, you were. You came out to shows in Red Deer. You came out to shows in Edmonton. You've seen our shows in Calgary. Like, you've been all over the map with us. You took some crazy pictures of me at the Promethean Labyrinth house that isn't even like around anymore. Like those guys, that whole crew has just gone out in entirely different directions. Like, it's wild. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. There's so much history. And there's so much history with you and the music scene in general. Like you have, in my opinion, created spaces for people and created platforms for people that create a sense of community in the music scene. And maybe that's where we can start. What is the earliest memory that you have of community in the music scene?
Okay, so when I was 13 years old, around that age, around that definitive age of transforming from a kid into a teenager, there were two girls in Olds. Their names were Connie and Raina. Raina Saunders and Connie Peterson, I think was her name. But they're totally entirely different people now. I'm pretty sure I haven't talked to either of them in probably over 10 years. But they were, when I was 13, they were in high school. They were probably 14, 15, 16, but they were putting on punk shows. And I saw they were the only two punk girls in town, huge mohawks, vests. One of them had a big purse with a swastika with a big X through it. And I was like, these are the coolest chicks ever. I had a huge crush on Raina for the longest time, but because the way I was raised, I was always really shy around the girls I had a crush on. I wanted to be friends with them before anything else. So I became friends with these girls, and they were friends with my older brother he wasn't really my older brother, but he was my mom's friend's son, and he was my older brother role model around me, and he treated me like shit. But I got to go do cool stuff, and he smoked pot with me, and it worked out nice. And I'd go to these punk shows, and one of the first ones I went to, I was 13 years old, and it was the Evergreen Center in Olds. And it was bands like the Scallywags, bands like DeVille. Like these bands are still around today in some form. Like the Scallywags are still around as they were the Oi Street Scoundrels.
Lethbridge?
Yeah. Gigi's in the Hockey Moms. We just had the Hockey Moms come and play in my band's first show. So it's crazy to think the first show that I went to when I was 13, 12 years old, the drummer, Gigi, I don't think he was the drummer in the Scallywags. I think he was the vocalist for the Scallywags. No, I don't, this is so long ago, right? Because I'm 30 years old now. And my first show that I had ever seen, I saw all these people, these bands. Like one of my favorite memories was everybody was in the back, and there was vans everywhere, and there was beers flying around everywhere. And I was like, everybody's just drinking out in the parking lot. Like when we drink beers, we go hide. We go hide in the park, like so nobody can see us, so we can make sure everybody who's coming around, we can see them for a distance. We can hide our beers and like get away. No, they're pounding brews, hanging out of their vans, and everybody's saying, hello, yo, what's up? And the vests. This was the first time I'd seen so many vests, and I needed one. So I got one. I got my first vest when I was 14 years old, and I still have it. This back patch is from 2004.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So this vest isn't even wearable anymore, but I still have it, and that was the first time I'd seen what this does for people, what music and shows and bands, what they can do for people. Because when that show started, nobody gave me any shit. I was allowed to go crazy and lose my mind the same way that I had always been punished for, the same way I'd always gotten in shit for, the same way I would always be picked on for other people for. I was finally allowed to do that, and people were fucking stoked on it. So I was sold. So I got a little drunk, 13-year-old Nate Trash got a little drunk, and my older brother was like, all right, you have to go home now because mom's going to wonder where you're at and supper's ready. So you got to go home now. Because if you don't, we're both going to get in shit, and you're not going to be allowed to come do this shit anymore. So I hopped on my bike and I fucking waved at all those punks, and I went home, and I was like, yeah, that's it. So I got my first guitar for my 13th birthday. Foggy mind. Can't remember if it was before or after the first show. I'd always like plucking at guitars. My uncle Kevin, his roommate had a couple guitars. And when he would babysit me when I was really young, like kindergarten, grade 1, I'd always like be playing the guitars and strumming at him. And they were always doped up, my uncle and his roommate. So they would just watch to make sure I'm not wrecking nothing, but they never actually let me like pick the guitar up and play it. So like, it was always just this like weird, mystical. My family is too broke to afford these types of things. So like to go hang out in Uncle Kevin's house and play with Calvin's guitar was pretty fucking cool. So I always wanted a guitar, but one thing I realized was I didn't have the attention span and the dexterity to play guitar. I got nice long fingers, like I can jam some stuff out, but the attention span's just not there. And then like learning to play standing up for a whole set, like a half hour, seemed really daunting to me. Like I jam out a couple of tunes and my arms get sore. So I was like, all right, I got to figure out something else. So the frontman situation just always came up. It was always there. I was always in front of everybody trying to be an asshole for attention anyway. So the first band was a punk band, and that came out when I was 16. Tunes, we are so rad.
Oh, little 16-year-old.
Yeah. Me and my Misfits vest, thinking I am the most punk rock kid around. My buddy Bruce, who's like, doesn't wear a vest. He doesn't dress punk rock, most unassuming guy, but he plays every instrument, and he is like spitting in my pockets, like punk rock Bruce. And then our drummer was a keyboard, just a drum setting on a keyboard. So that was it. Yeah, we played our first show at the Olds Legion. We played our first show when I was 16 years old. They let us rent out the Legion for free. They just got to keep all the money. So if we let everybody we let in, we just gave all the money to them for a donation to the Legion, and they let us play. No problem. So if you remember my friend EJ, he lived like across the road from the Legion. You walk across the parking lot, you go across the parking lot of Fast Gas, and there was EJ's house. So we got really drunk at EJ's house before the show, and we played that first show, and there was a mosh pit of probably 15 people, and my buddy Jimmy cornered this fucking guy and chucked him over a table. And I was like, Jimmy, that's not a mosh pit, man. Like you don't corner a guy at the back of the room where all the lights are off, where all the tables are stacked, and then throw him over a fucking table. Like that's not a mosh pit, man. He's like, I was just getting people in the pit.
He's just punk.
You threw him in the opposite direction of the pit.
Oh, that's funny.
So we did a cover of Sweet Dreams by Marilyn Manson. We did that cover, but I yelled it and I screamed it, and I lost my voice and my throat swelled up, and like I was like, yeah, I'm never going to try singing again. This is the only way I'm ever going to do vocals ever again. And I sat there that night. Like we were all around a fire drinking booze. My buddy Levi had stolen a bottle of whiskey from the liquor store, and we were all super stoked because it was a 60 a Crown Royal. And we were like, okay, sweet, we're getting loaded. And I just sat there and I thought I was super, super depressed after that first show. I was like, this is a really, I was almost morose. Like, this is a really weird feeling of longing, you know? But that was it. I was a death metal vocalist now. I was going to hone my skill as a death metal vocalist. I was really gonna cause I was told when I was younger that I was a shitty death metal vocalist, and like, it's better to just try and be a punk rock singer than to try and be it, because it takes too much work for somebody like you to be somebody like Corpse Grinder. I was surrounded by lots of very negative, unsupportive people that just wanted to shit on each other. They just wanted to get drunk and high together. And there was no like positive reinforcement, no sort of like, no uplifting. This is why I do that so much now, being 30 years old, because when I was a kid, it wasn't there. And that was, if it would have been there, so many of my problems wouldn't have happened. So many of the things that I had challenges with in life would not have been as challenging as they were, or lasted as long as they did. If I would have had a positive outlet that my family supported, I wouldn't have gone to drugs. If I would have had a positive outlet that my family supported, I wouldn't be going to party every weekend in order to get away from that family that didn't support the things that I wanted to do. So the next band, and this is where World Class White Trash started. So Fast Gas and Olds. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm selling cigarettes illegally because I'm only 17. You're not allowed to work night shift if you're underage. But the general manager of Fast Gas was my aunt, and my mom worked there as well. So they're like, yeah, nobody's going to give Nate shit for working there. We both know he's working there. Like, it's not a big deal. So I'd sell smokes for night shift, and I'd like sit there, I'd listen to fucking tunes. And thinking back on it now, it's a dream gig for a kid like me. But back when it was happening, I thought it sucked for a lot of the times because I was like, this is boring. This is fucking boring. And I didn't have cell phone with games back then. Like, my cell phone was just a tiny little Fido phone, and the buttons were smaller than Tic Tacs. Like, it was
Back in the day when cell phones didn't have screens.
it was a Sony Ericsson. It was one of the first Sony Ericsson phones. So it was like the same model as the Walkman phone, but it wasn't a Walkman phone. So there was no music on my phone. I had an 28 gig iPod, one of the like old school detachable hard drive iPods. So I packed that fucker with tunes, and I'd listen to Pantera, and I'd listen to fucking Meshuggah, and I'd listen to Gojira and Lamb of God, and then I'd like switch it over and I'd listen to weird ass random ska at like 4 a.m. just to fuck with people. And Darcy came in. He was a regular. Everybody knew Darcy. I didn't know Darcy yet, but I've heard of him. So
this is your love story.
This is
the start of your love
Darcy.
story.
Yes, and I still talk to Darcy. Me and Darcy are still cool. Like, he just had to focus more on like his life and building something for himself, because World Class White Trash had drained us all financially, physically, mentally, emotionally. And Darcy had a house, and he had like no savings, and he had to put all of the money into the band. And he was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm going trucking. I'm not fucking doing this anymore. And I respect him for that, because it was that decision that made me think the way I do about being in a band now, and about being a part of a band, and about that's why I do all these things that I do outside of just being a band member. So Darcy came in, and he's like, yeah, man, you like Pantera? And I was like, fuck yeah, man, this is my shit. Like, I fucking love death metal. Like, I was in a band, and I'm trying to start up a band. And he's like, I'm in a band called World Class White Trash. I was like, I heard about your band. My buddy Steve-O was telling me about that. And like, I had been honing my vocals for the last 2 years. So I was like this fucking hidden weapon of death metal brutality. Like, when I met Darcy, he was showing some riffs. He's like, yeah, Steve-O's my vocalist. I'm like, yeah, I know Steve-O. Just so you know, like, if anything happens, like, I'm a way better vocalist than he is. He's like, yeah, you think so? I was like, yeah, man, I definitely am. So like, I practice with Devil Driver every day. Like, I trying to flex, like, yeah, man, like Randy Blythe, buddy, I can go way longer than Randy Blythe and lower, all sorts of stupid shit. Like, nobody cares about any of that stuff now. They want to see a microphone in your hand, and they want to see you doing it on stage, because everybody's got a video phone now. So back then it was like, you don't got videos of these guys, of your buddy doing vocals, and you don't got videos of me doing vocals. So I'm going to say I'm better than him, because the confidence is what's going to sell it. So he showed me the first 3 songs of that World Class White Trash ever wrote. And I'm pretty sure that was Insomniana, Make 'Em Bleed, and Disposable Soldiers. So he gave me that tape. And I listened to that tape when I got home. I got home in the morning. I slept for like 3 hours. I woke up. I wrote all 3 songs to go along with that tape. And I showed him the sheet of lyrics the next day, and I gave him the tape back. And I was like, are we doing this or what? And he was like, we need a drummer, because my drummer's moving back to Nova Scotia. I got a guitar player. We need a bass player. So Trevor was the other guitar player. I still talk to Trevor too. He is still an absolute shredder on guitar, but he is doing more like, he's been doing more mixed multimedia stuff. That was my foray into being a musician, and I was thrown in head first. 17 years old. We got songs. We are jamming like 3 times a week. We're getting tight. Like, we're actually turning into a band that's good. And we get our first show. Where else? Fucking Verns.
We love Burns.
I love Clint. Burns is one of my favorite spots. The fact that he was able to stay open during COVID just goes to show, like, hey, you know what? Burns isn't really as gross as everybody thinks, because if it was, they would have got shut the fuck down during COVID.
Is that why we love Burns though? It's like
I love
it's
Burns because
beautifully gross. It's
I
lovely.
love
It's fantastic.
it's home. It's fucking
Yeah.
home. It's
Yeah.
home. That's the place where it doesn't matter if you're, and let's be real here, it doesn't matter what bar you're at. All fucking bathrooms at live music venues are fucking gross.
Okay,
Like,
I'm just gonna
straight
say
up.
this for the record: the Burns women's bathroom, the Burns femme bathroom, is decently good, and it is better than a lot of the other punk bathrooms in Calgary.
I've
Trust
cleaned those
trust me.
bathrooms. I've cleaned those bathrooms at the end of the night. I've cleaned both those bathrooms, and they're not as fucking bad as everyone says. I've had worse experiences in the co-op bathroom and at all in Olds, and that's because they have bathrooms where the kids get taken in, and the parents don't pay attention to their kids. So those kids, they shit everywhere. They throw toilet paper everywhere. They try and piss in the floor drain, like. And then I got rid of all my. I really did. I really got rid of every world-class white trash thing that I fucking have. I got show posters. If you look in the back where that little corner of my flag is, those posters, the bottom two posters are world-class white trash posters. And then I have 4 world-class white trash posters up in the corner above my TV. And then I have the Ghetto Gala world-class white trash poster right in front of me where I'm sitting. So I got rid of everything else multiple times. And then when my grandma passed away, like, I did not, all the world-class white trash stuff was gone. Serenity has one white world-class white trash shirt that she's had since she was probably 2 years old. And it's covered in red nail polish, and she still wears it for jammies sometimes. And that's it. And then when my grandma passed away, we were cleaning up her house and we were cleaning up her drawers. And there was a world-class white trash shirt in one of her drawers. And she came out to a couple of shows. I love my grandma so much. It was really hard when she passed away, because my grandma taught me a lot of my personal values that I have. And my uncle taught me some too, but my grandma really taught me my core values. You know, if you can walk, you can work. You know what I mean? You can, and not just go to work to make a living, but if you're physically able to do something, you can and should go do something. Period. Whether it be work, whether it be help someone, whether it be help yourself. If you have 2 feet and your heart fucking beats, it's your job to go do that. You know, and I always thought when I was younger, when she told me that, I always thought that meant I always have to have a job. That means that as soon as I turn 14, my grandma's going to expect me to have a job. And if I don't have a job, she's going to think I'm lazy. And that's not what she meant. What she meant was go do something more than what you're doing right now. Because she knew that my uncle was a drug addict and a criminal. She knew that my dad was an alcoholic, like a closeted alcoholic, and I credit my mom for this. My mom was very, very against any sort of alcohol in the house, because my dad was a very heavy alcohol abuser before all of us were born. So that was the core of a lot of my parents fighting when they were younger. But my grandma taught me that my grandma's had an open door policy for anybody who needed a place to stay. My uncle used to pick kids up on the side of the road and like bring them to the house, feed them for the night, and then give them a ride into the city so they could catch a bus. You know what I mean? It was, some of those situations might have turned a little sour on his part because of the way that people viewed him for it. And then, like, you know, a lot of those people weren't nice people too. So we'd get robbed a couple of times as well. But the core situation was always the fact that everybody deserved a warm place to sleep. Everybody deserved something to eat. And if we had it, we were going to give it until we didn't have any more. And which led me into some pretty terrible spending habits as I got older. Like, being 30 years old, I'm just starting to like learn how important having a savings is. And like, learn how to budget my money properly, because back when I was younger, it was you get paid and you spend until it's gone. That's what money is for. Money is to be spent. Money is to be given out. Money is not to be kept and hoarded. And that really messed me up when I moved out to Calgary, because I didn't understand how to budget between paychecks in order to keep myself fed. So I had to, a couple of times I had to, I also didn't understand the fact of like paying rent, and like I was thrown right into it. And a couple of times I had to choose, like I had to pick which days I was going to go to work and which days I was going to save that bus fare with that money I would have spent at work, so I could have 2 meals that day and keep up my like my 2 meals a day throughout the week. So it was like, you always got to make sure you're fed, because if you're not fed, you're going to start getting depressed again, and you're going to start going back to the drugs and the booze again. So I figured all of this out, and I really stuck to it hard, because it had to be done. We were first world class demo we recorded in 2010. And then the last one was the last we ever recorded, and it was 2017. So in that time, all we did was play shows. And almost every weekend, there was a span for a couple of years where we were booked every fucking weekend.
Yeah, you guys are so great, honestly.
And I appreciate that, because like I had very toxic and harmful imposter syndrome. That's where a lot of my drug addiction and a lot of my drug abuse and alcohol abuse came from, was the fact that I thought everybody was lying to us. And I thought that it was going to be a big joke soon, that we were the band that everybody brought on to make all the other bands look good. You know, I was totally convinced of this. And
meanwhile, I'm showing up to all your shows being like,
well,
yeah,
everybody is. Well, everybody is. We get merch and it's sold out. Like, people are asking where our recordings are. Like, I look at it now, and I was very, very mentally sick back then, you know, and I think back and it's like, wow, I don't kick myself in the ass for it. I approach my past selves in every situation. I approach my past selves as a stranger, as a different individual, and I approach them as the self I am now. And I treat my past self the same way I would treat any other individual in those situations. And that's with empathy, and that's with calmness, and that's with love. And that's, you know, hey man, you know, it's okay. Shit's going to be all right. And that's fixed a lot of my depression. That's fixed a lot of my anxieties. I still have bad PTSD flashbacks and stuff from like a lot of the stuff I've seen with my family and my uncle and my parents fighting, and my family all, like, it was a really bad trap house for a long time. My grandma's house was. So it was damaging a lot of aspects of my life, having to go to shows and then the booze around all the time, the partying around all the time. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I have to keep sticking with this. I have to. And then it all came to a head when I was 22. Miss Serenity Riot, who's outside playing. Her 8th birthday is next month.
Happy birthday.
She had just been born. She was born in April. I had made the decision in July to move out. I couldn't find a job. I had no money. I was still recovering from all the drugs and still like having really frequent relapses. And that was a part of the reason why I couldn't find a job, because everybody knew who my family was and they knew who I was, and they just knew. So I was like, yeah, I need to go to Calgary. Everybody's like, no, you can't go to Calgary. You're just going to get worse. Your uncle, your dad, you're this, you're that. It's like, no. Calgary for me is where I can go to be me without having to take time off from being me. I got out here November 9th, 2014. And I was out here. I was fully prepared. I had a garbage bag full of clothes and $60 and a job, because of remember my grandma in the back of my head. You got a chance, you got to go to work. If you have something to do, you can go do it. And I had that. I could see that. And I had opportunities to still keep my life going. So I fought to the bitter end to keep that going. And I've been in Calgary ever since. I knew that with me being in Calgary, it was going to be a little bit more difficult to do band stuff. But at the same time, it was going to be a lot easier to do other band stuff. But I also started to realize I didn't want to be in Olds at all anymore, period.
Yeah, that's fair.
So going back to Olds every weekend to jam was definitely not anywhere close to the top of list of things I wanted to fucking do on the weekends.
Yeah, drive for 2 hours. No.
And yeah, and I don't drive, so it was me sitting in a car to go there and then like do the same thing over. And I wasn't having fun with this band at that point. So I got out here and I realized that a lot of things had to change. I realized I was having more fun hanging out at home on the weekends and feeling secure. I had some good smoke. There was always good weed everywhere. And shatter. I could get shatter in Calgary for $35 a gram at that time. And back in Olds, there was one guy who made it, and he lived in Didsbury. And he only made it on rare occasions, and it was $60 fucking a gram. And only if he would even sell it to you. So like, I was like, okay, I'm in Calgary now. I can get fucking really good weed. I'm spending my money on a bunch of shatter and a bunch of weed. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to play video games like I did when I was a fucking kid. So that's how I fixed myself. That's how I rehabbed myself. And I still do that now. Like my computer desk, I play games. I got the new Xbox. I play games. Like this kind of thing is where I don't get bugged, you know. I work and then I come home, and if I want to, I play some game. Well, now I'm sitting at my computer desk and I'm setting up sales for Cursed.
Yeah, do you play games or do you work for Cursed Apparel, and are you working on Trash Talk with Nate Trash and Trash on the Streets?
Okay, so let's move into that now. I started it goes like this. Trash, world-class white trash ended. 100% finito, kaput, done, buried, 12 feet deep. So even when the floods come in from global warming, it's not going to pull those bodies up. I was like, what can I do? I always wanted to do the George Stroumboulopoulos, Rick Campanelli, Much Music thing. Those were my guys. Those were my fucking guys. Strombo and Campanelli were the shit. Everybody's like, oh, you're like Nardwuar. I'm like, no. I'm thinking more of like David Tell at 3 a.m, wired and loaded with a microphone in his hand, or like Tom Green walking on the streets doing crazy shit. But I'm not crazy like that. They have their own personalities that they applied to what they did as interviewers and as hosts for these shows. And I was like, this is what I got to do. Nate Trash is going to be the character that does this now, that does interviews. And that's what it started out as. Was the basis was Trash Talk with Nate Trash. So Trash Talk was about having a conversation. The original basis was I'm going to find musicians and promoters in the scene. I'm going to have a half a podcast where we talk about what they do in the scene. And then the other half is going to be one thing that nobody really knows about, that they're really amazing about, that they're really passionate about outside of music. But it didn't work like that. I didn't want to do it once I started Boyko. Boyko was my first person to interview. And what I was going to do is I was going to talk about who Boyko is as a drummer, drum teacher, musician. And then we were going to talk about Boyko as a fucking chef, how he likes to fucking cook like a crazy wild animal, right? But we just ended up talking. We ended up shooting the shit. And like we're doing right now, you know, I realized that I could talk a lot. That's why I wanted to start the cast. So it just became like, I'm going to pick a guest and we're just going to talk. We're going to have a back and forth. We're going to chat. And then Trash on the Streets came. And Trash on the Streets came like a fully formed idea, like ready to go, that just popped into my head. Cool. And it didn't really pop into my head because I'd seen these people do it on TV all the time. I saw my favorite VJs, MTV, Much Music. I saw them interviewing people out on the streets all the time. Nardwuar was doing interviews out on the street. That's why I wanted to do it. But I wanted to grab the band. I wanted to get them out at their show outside, and I wanted to interview them. So we did. And a couple of them are really good. And I have a couple that I haven't uploaded because like I did a night where I went on a tear and I got drunk at Dickens, watching a show at Dickens. And then I did an interview with a band called Death Machine. And then I got progressively more boozed up. And then I went to Broken City to interview Redshifted and Owls and Eagles. And I was like yelling over them, and I was like making fun of them. And like, I keep cutting them off when they're trying to answer a question. And I was like, I watched it and I was like, oh man.
You should release that as like its own thing, like drunk with Nate Trash or something.
So the thing with that is I'm going to, but I want to release it because I messaged Mark. I was like, okay, so I can't release the Owls and Eagles interview because I told him the sound was fucked up. But the fucked up sound is me being drunk and loud. So I was like, yeah, the sound got all fucked up, but I didn't finish the sentence with like, I fucked up the sound by being a drunk fucking asshole and like talking over you. And because I was on a tear and I was like, no. And I was like treating the camera like another person that I'm trying to introduce this band to. But in doing that, I forgot the fact that this band has never been on my show before, so I need to give them this platform to introduce themselves and promote themselves. So that was another learning experience for me. And now I have another host for Trash on the Streets too. Ray is also going to be doing some Trash on the Streets stuff for me as well. All the bands have been great. And the whole point now, because in the beginning it was I want to get bands out there while still being a part of the scene myself. That was what the whole start of Trash Talk was. The original aspect was I wanted to get a studio space and I wanted to have a table and a couple of cameras and I wanted to do the interview that way so that I could we could pass a joint back and forth and I could get like sponsorships from stores and like show their products and stuff. So now the show has become a platform for younger musicians to access the information of higher musicians and use the same platform that higher musicians and higher level industry individuals would want to access. So instead of trying to branch out and be Nate Trash absolutely everywhere all the time, I'm going to be Nate Trash in the communities where I can help people and where I can uplift, and that's small businesses, like doing the charisma raids. That's providing a safe space for non-binary people. That's providing an inclusive space for all ethnicities that want to be involved too, right? So
It sounds like you really took all of your experiences from the past and created a space that you feel would have been not just beneficial for you, but would have helped you thrive.
that I had to, absolutely had to, because there's no way I was going to give up. I am in a new band. So that band is 100% at the fucking bottom. We are not an OG powerhouse band. We are a new band that has to play the new shows just like every other band. And I like that. I like that feeling. I like the fact that I've been gifted, 100% fucking gifted, a second chance to do this and to do it right. That tells me that the universe sees this as as what I'm supposed to be doing. I just wasn't supposed to be doing it at that time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did because I fucking loved it. And I'm glad you're still doing it and making all these spaces for people that honestly, like when we were growing up, you're changing things that need to be changed. And that's incredible.
I'll be honest with you. I'm following my heart 100% through this and using my brain to keep me out of trouble and to keep me from making hasty decisions and to keep me from being reactionary instead of actionary. Okay. So now working with Cursed Earth Apparel, now I'm given a tool to actually profit and not profit through the sales I make, because I'm not making money off these sales. And I'll be 100% clear and totally transparent. Every deal that I make through Cursed Earth Apparel equals a 10% commission for me. That's it. And that's because Reed is a one-man show. And that's because I'm not out to make money off of this. I'm a tradesman. I got a good job. I'm out to do this. So I have a better way to connect and network with people on a larger scale and a more professional scale and it builds a higher level of trust between us, because now they know my band is good. They know I work hard on my music, but not just that. I work in the industry doing merch, helping bands become more visible and become more professional, and give them a way to create an income for their band as well. So they don't have to, it doesn't have to be a financial burden. What that equals for me is, because I get my merch printed from Reed, I just do a bunch of deals, and then I make an order for merch, and then Reed knocks a couple of bucks off my order, and then we're good.
Nice.
So
Community care. I fucking love it.
this is my fuel now. I used to be exhausted by thinking about these events and stuff, but now this is what fuels me. This is what makes me me now, and I'm not stopping for anything.
I love it. I fucking love it. I have one more question for you.
Lay it on me.
What is your final statement for the people?
Okay, so everybody likes to be nice. Everybody knows that being nice is what you're supposed to do with people, okay? But being nice to the same people all the time, over and over again, that's not really going to make anything more better. And that's good. Obviously, keep treating people nice. But what I'm getting at is focus on how you treat strangers. Be polite, be overly polite to strangers. Don't just say thank you when they hold the door for you, nod, acknowledge that they exist. Say, hey, thanks. I'd appreciate that. Add that extra bit in. Treat those strangers like they're old friends that you just don't really recognize anymore. Treat everybody a degree better every time you interact with them. And be happy. Be positive. Say nice fucking things to people. Julia, your lipstick looks fucking great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Say nice things to people, and don't say it for a reaction. Say it for the sake of letting them know that you think that about them. That you think that thing about them is nice, and that makes you feel good that they are doing that nice thing for themselves. Don't just say things because you think you're going to get the right reaction. It's not about reactions. It's about action. It's about acting instead of reacting. Treat people, what it all comes down to is help people and treat people nice. And look for a way, even if you're in a bad mood, everybody gets in bad moods. Let people know you're in a bad mood. Say it, I'm in a bad mood today. So if I treat you badly, I apologize. And watch how quickly your fucking bad mood changes. Watch how quickly people will work to make sure you're in a better mood, or people will give you your space until you're in a better mood. Mm-hmm. Start communicating outward. Quit having fights in your head and then thinking that that's the way life is because you had an argument with yourself in your head and came to a conclusion about something. So that's how you think it is now. No, speak out. Speak the way you feel. Talk to people. Communicate with people. We've all just gone through 2 years of what some of the most uncertain times on the planet, and we're only headed for more. So let's start focusing and working on our circles, our individual circles, our immediate people that we affect. The guy that you see every day when you go to your store to get coffee in the morning before work, say hello to them. Say thank you to them. If they make a mistake, say it's okay. I know that you make mistakes. It's really early. And then share a laugh with them. Make this huge fucking planet that everybody thinks is so separated and hateful and so cut apart from each other. Let's shrink that down. And the way to shrink that down is by talking and being fucking nice and actually caring. Mm-hmm. Care more. That's the final thought. Fucking care more, and care more on purpose, not just because you think it's going to make you fucking feel good. Care more because you know it's going to make yours and another person's life better.
Fuck yeah.
Fucking done. Mic is dropped. I'm not going to drop my mic though because I love it.
Yeah, same. But that was fucking yeah. Fuck yeah. Where can people find you? Link City. I'm going to drop all the links at the bottom, of course, but for just people listening.
Okay, so if you Google Nate Trash, I come up. I made it that way. That's why I stuck with Nate Trash. You can find me on Instagram, Trash Talk with Nate Trash, Twitter, Nate Trash. I'm on Spotify, Trash Talk with Nate Trash. I'm on SoundCloud, Trash Talk with Nate Trash. I'm on YouTube, it's Trash Talk with Nate Trash. Facebook, same thing. The only thing that's different, and this is because I got partied up one night. And okay, so on Twitch, I'm on Twitch every Monday and every Thursday, I stream interviews and music reviews. On Twitch, it's Nate Trash Talks. And that's where I do the bulk of my work is on Twitch. So it's pretty ironic. But also, we're on YouTube, Trash Talk with Nate Trash, Twitch, Twitch, Nate Trash Talks. Cursed Earth Apparel, Nate at cursedearthapparel.com. Send me an email if you need some merch. We do small orders, we do large orders, whatever you need. Yeah.
Whorrify. Where can they
Whorrify? Band. I forgot I was in a band. Whorrify. We have an EP out. It's called Whorrify by Whorrify with the self-titled track Whorrify on there as well. That's on Bandcamp as well as YouTube. We are playing at Dickens in Calgary, April 2nd for the Above Ground Apparel CD or merch store launch, as well as the No More Moments CD release. And we are opening up the show. So we are going to set the bar high for the rest of these guys for the night. So you can guarantee, because we are opening the show that night, that it's going to be an off the chain night, because nobody's going to want to play. Nobody's going to want to be the band that can't play better than the band before. So we're going to put on a show and make everybody work. It's going to be a good night.
Hell yeah. Yeah. At Dickens. APA. Is it release party? Launch party?
AGA, Above Ground Apparel, store launch party, and No More Moments CD release.
Hell yeah.
If you contact me through any of these channels, you are contacting me directly. Nobody runs my socials. I run my socials. I run my Facebook. I run my Instagram. I run all of the communication avenues and tunnels. There's no, I don't have a social media person who fields my messages. I don't do any of the automatic fucking replies. You're talking to me directly. If you are messaging any of these things, you're talking to me. So if you want to talk to me, even if you don't want to talk to about podcast shit, if you just need somebody to fucking talk to and you think that I'm going to listen to you, guaranteed I'm going to listen to you. If you are having a hard time, if you need some fucking help, send me a message, because I also have access to the resources to get anybody any help they need with mental illnesses, with mental health problems, suicidal thoughts, drugs, alcohol, abuse issues. I have access to all the resources for all this. So if you feel you need any help with that, hit up any of those Trash Talk with Nate Trash. If you see my stickers or anything anywhere, that's a safe place. That's a safe spot. That's me. You're accessing me. I have your back. No problem.
Nate Trash for fucking president. Anyways, this was lovely. And I love you. And thank you so much. And I'm sure I'll talk to you quite soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much as well, Julia. I love everything you do as well. Your work, you do a very thankless job, and it doesn't stop you any day of the week. And you got mountains of respect for me for that. Huge amounts of respect for me.
We'll talk to you soon, Nate. Thank you.
Definitely. So I love you, Julia. Take care. We'll talk to you very soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.